Hi, welcome to QA Script, Selenium and QTP online training Gurukula. In this video, we'll learn how to read data from Excel sheet and place it into application. There are different ways to read the data from Excel sheet. One among those different ways I'm trying to explain the best as well as effective way to read the data from Excel sheet. I'm going to use this picture to give overall idea. Here is a bean bag. So what will be there in the bean bag? We'll be having lot of beans. Likewise, I will create one class something like data field values. Inside this class I'll create so many variables like beans. Those beans are those variables are going to use to store the data what I'm going to read from Excel sheet row by row. To read the data from Excel sheet and assign to this variable, I'm going to use Apache POI jar file classes and assign to this data to variable. Once I assign the values to variable, I can use the same variable to write it into the application using Selenium WebDriver coding. Let us see coding part, how exactly I have done. As I said, I have created one bean class called data field value. Inside this I have created two beans, that is two variables. One is string username and string password. In this example I am only reading a username and password, that's why I have created two variables. If you are creating more number of if you are trying to read more number of data from your Excel sheet, those many number of variables you can create it here. After creating these two variables, I have created getters and setters. By right click on that particular variable, going to source, and there is an option called generate getters and setters. After clicking this getters and setters, you'll be getting these are the two different methods. One is get username, this is for username, and set username. Okay, so what is advantage and how to use these get username and password? Please look at my other videos where I have explained clearly how can we use, what is the purpose of getters and setters in the OOPS concept. After creating getters and setters, I will create one class called read data. Inside the read data, I will create one method called read Excel. Okay, to read the Excel, what we need path of Excel sheet and the sheet name. For example, here sheet name is data, and I am going to pass the path of this Excel sheet where it is present in the local system. Inside read data Excel method, I have used a class called file input stream. That is a class we are going to use to get connect the file. Then I have used XSSF workbook, the class which is coming from Apache POI jar files, and created a workbook of object called input stream. Later I have used one more class of XSSF sheet, and I am getting the sheet name from the argument. I am counting how many rows I have used using the method called get last row num, and I am putting into for loop to read the data one by one from the cell and all the rows of Excel sheet. In my data sheet I have 3 rows, but I am going to read the data from second row, third row, so on so, because first row is treating as header and I don't need the data. This is only for the user sake. I need the data from second row, hence I am starting the for loop from I equals to 1. I am using a method called get row of I, means it will be pointing to first row, that is second row of Excel sheet. Then it will take the control of second row and start reading the cell data using get cell. Here I'm passing 0 because the column what I am specifying is the first column, and I am assuming that the column numbers will be fixed and rows number will be changed according to the execution. This time it has only two rows, two set of data. If you want to execute with a more number of data or less number of data, you can add any number of test data in the rows, but I am thinking I am restricting the uh, columns, saying that only two columns will be there. If you want to make it dynamic, of course you can use some other methods to get the column count as well. Here I am assigning those cell data to a variable called cell. I'm using one object called data sheet. This data sheet is created using a class called data field value. The data field value is nothing but a class what I have created as a bin here. So I am connecting this bin to my data read data class what I have represented in the picture. So here is the connection between my Excel sheet and bin bag. After creating object like data sheet using data field value, I am trying to add those values what I want to read from cell here. I'm trying to add the data to the object. After adding all the data to this object, I will create one list collection, and I am going to add to that list connection. That's a object what I have created using list collection. If you observe here, I'm using data field value to make it very specific to my class only. So it will going to accept all the data which are present in this class. And in the data field value I have created getters and setters. So I'm going to use set user method in my class called read data. Here I am reading data from first cell, that is username, and here I am using set username. Set username in my data field value class as argument something like string username. When I use this set username and assign the username value what I read from Excel sheet, the data will come to this point, then it will assign to the username which is there inside this, and I am using this dot username to make it available for entire this class. So the same username I am returning out in the get username method. So whenever I use get method in another class, I can read the data what I have got from read data class. Likewise, I have used set password and passed the value as a argument inside this method. Later I am returning the data sheet list whatever the value I have got using return keyword. I am creating one more class called Gmail base test to make it read the data using read Excel sheet method what I have created in read data file. I am passing the Excel sheet path here. Since I have used Excel X, that's why I have used a class called XSSF workbook. If you are using XLS only, then use another class called HSSF workbook, and I am passing the data sheet name. If you look at the data sheet name in my test data, here is the data I am passing. The same name I am passing in the method called read data from Excel, and I am assigning the data or return value to a object called data sheet list. The same object I have created and I have used in the read data class here. And the data type of that particular object is data field value. It is same as read data class. After reading the data and assigning to object outside this read data class, then I can go for using it. Here I have created one simple method called launch browser. Inside the launch browser I am using Firefox driver to launch the browser, and I am placing the URL using a method called get, and here is the piece of code to wait for some time, and here is the line of code to maximize the browser. I will create one more class called Gmail. In this Gmail I am extending my class to Gmail base test, so that I can use all the classes, methods, variable which are present in Gmail base test. I am creating one more method called login. Here I am first checking whether data sheet list is having data or not by using size method. If data sheet list object as read data from Excel sheet and got assigned to this, the size will be more than 0. If no data found, then the data will be, the size of the data sheet list will be 0. That's why I'm putting that into if and verifying the expression. Think that I have read the data from Excel sheet, hence the size of this object will be more than 1. It will come to the else part. Inside the else part I am using for loop to use how many data we have read from the data sheet. Imagine I have read the data from Excel sheet. Here username, there are two different set of test data, but I am having only one username, that is a bean. To that bean I will assign Gauri as well as Mohan in this fashion. So it will be having number of data. To read the data one by one I am using for loop, and in the for loop I am placing the code to write the username and password. So I am using advanced for loop data sheet value, then I am creating a variable called gdata using user defined data type, that is data field value. Once I use this advanced for loop, I'll be having data to this gdata variable, and it will iterate how many times the data read from Excel sheet. For example, in this case I have only two set of test data, so this piece of code will going to iterate 2 times. Here I have declared one variable called get username, and getting the username to this variable using gdata dot get username. The get username is coming from the class called data field value, and it has return type, hence I'm going to get the value to the variable called get username. Likewise, I have created one more variable called get password, and the password is going to come from gdata dot get password. Here is the code to clear the text in the password field, then it's entering the username. Sorry, here is the line of code to clear the email, then it will enter the email in the email field. Likewise, here is the code to clear the password field, then it's going to enter the password in the application here. Then it will close the browser. Let us try to execute and see how the code is going to work. Firefox browser got launched. Maximized. Place the first set of row, that is Gauri and password. Then second set of data, that is Raz and its password, and the browser got closed. The execution of script got completed. Thank you for watching this video. For any clarification or information or help, please contact at info@qascript.com or qascript25 @gmail.com. Thank you.